The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, everybody. This is Christopher Allen, and we've got a 1-hour hands-on webinar with ZebraZapps scheduled today. I invite all of you to, if you haven't already, open up a web browser and go to the homepage for ZebraZapps. In the upper left-hand corner, you'll find an application called Concept Learning, and all the activities that we'll be doing today can be found in this application. There are some instructions, but it gives you a model of what your end interaction should look like. And as we're settling in, I'll introduce you to the rest of the support here that I have online. Today I'm joined by Michael Allen, and he'll be talking with me as we go through building each one of these short little interactions and providing some additional questions and context for what we are creating.
Hello, everybody.
Also in the room, I've got Jeff and David with me, and they'll be answering questions through the GoToMeeting question panel. So if you aren't familiar with GoToMeeting, you might want to take just a second to look at the control panel that you have. Over in the upper right, at least on my screen, there are a couple buttons I want you to be aware of. One of them is the hands up button. So there's a little icon, it looks like a hand. It should be right on the edge of the controller. Every now and then I'll ask you to hit this button to let me know that you've completed the steps that we've just been talking about so that I can move on to the next part without leaving too many people behind. The second thing to be aware of is in this panel, you'll also find a drop-down category called questions. And here's where you can answer or ask any question that you like about what it is that we're building today, how to do something. If something just doesn't feel quite right, go ahead and type in a question there in the pane. Jeff and David will be sure to answer any questions that you have coming through, as well as if there's a question that the whole group might be interested in. We'll be sure to talk about those too. Yes, in this, we got a question already. Do we have to create a new project? Yeah, we're going to be starting from scratch and creating and building right inside the ZebraZapps editor. And we are recording today's webinar. At least it says so right on my computer. And we'll be sharing a video archive of this webinar shortly after we finish up. And no, the only thing that we've got a couple questions of people who are just entering. The only thing that you should have done so far is gone out to ZebraZapps.com. If you already have an account, log in. And we'll be taking a look at this application featured in the Zap shop called Concept Learning. I'm going to go ahead and open it up on my screen. And to do that, you can click on the icon or the text here. We've gone out to what we call a detail page for a published application inside the shops. Here you can leave comments about this interaction. When you mouse over the Z here in the lower left-hand corner, this gives you controls for the application, the ability to open it up in a new window or to take it full screen. And you should now see that I've made it go full screen, and just hitting escape on your keyboard will bring you back to the detail page. And we'll be sure to talk about some of the sharing features as we wrap up today. Let's go ahead and take a look at the application, and we'll get kind of a roadmap of what we'll be building today. So right away, the first screen that you have in this application is showing a drag and drop interaction. And up here at the very top, it says that there are 3 targets. And we're calling this putback style, in which the feedback for getting the drag and drop wrong is it will put back to its original position the object, which is movable. Across the bottom, we have a set of words. And the goal here is to move the words into their appropriate column. So whether or not it's a noun, a verb, or an adjective. So let's just start by getting a couple right. So a friend is a noun, sit is a verb, and weird is an adjective. So getting it right, when I let go with my mouse, each one of those words stays in the column. If I had gotten it wrong, let's say red is a noun, tall is a verb, and cloud is an adjective, you notice that the words pop right back into place with a little bit of animation. This is done really simply inside Zebra, and that will be our first task. I'm going to hit escape and go back to the detail page. And let's go ahead and open up a brand new project. And take a second here, if you haven't already, to go ahead and sign into your account. I'll sign out for a second just to refresh how that's done. In the upper left-hand corner, if you already have an account, it's looking for your display name or email address.
Of course, to get to this page, you need to go to ZebraZapps.com.
Yes, absolutely.
Yep.
And to click sign in.
And click sign in.
If you haven't already created an account, this join button right here gets you to a page where you can start your own free trial of ZebraZapps. All we're asking for is email address. You create your own password and just a little bit of information about you. I believe you hit open account on the screen right after that, apply coupon and confirm, and you've got your own free account. There's absolutely no obligation to start a subscription up with us, but it will give you access to the editor certainly for today and the future, so that you can play around.
Gives you storage space and everything, right?
Absolutely, and the ability to publish. There are no limitations with the free trial.
So do we want to check the show of hands, make sure that everybody is first into ZebraZapps?
Sure, that would be great. If you've successfully logged into Zebra and you've got access to your account, you should see this create new project button over here in your my stuff drop down. If you have that screen up and ready to go ahead and hit the hands up button on GoToMeeting to let us know that we can continue.
There, they're starting to come in.
It's maybe harder to find the icon on GoToMeeting than sign into ZebraZapps.
So, but we have about a third of our attendees who have not made it yet. I guess maybe some people might be deciding just to watch today and not go along with us. So if that's your situation, if you put your hand up too, at least we know we shouldn't be waiting for you. So that would be helpful. But if you're going to try to work along with us, we want to make sure you get signed in. So we're looking for those hands. Bunches of them coming in now. That's good. So not quite as many as I'd expect. So if you're having any trouble, we're not getting a lot of questions. So are you guys getting questions about problems getting in? I don't see very many. Uh-oh, what happened to the hands? Oh, there they are. Let's see what does. Oh, while we're waiting, somebody says, obviously you're using the Pro version. That's not true.
No, we're currently using what's out there for everybody to use on ZebraZapps.com. The professional version is coming shortly, and most likely in one of our next upcoming webinar features, we'll be detailing all of the new features that will be available this fall with ZebraZapps Professional.
And one more question about how is it I raise my hand again?
There should be a little hand button a thumb and 4 fingers on the edge of the GoToMeeting control panel.
It's generally way over on the right. And, little hand and you click on it, right?
Yep.
Okay.
All right. Well, I'm going to put everybody's hands down and let's move on to opening up the editor and get started with our first task. To create a new project, go ahead and just click this green button that says Create New Project right under your My Stuffs tab. It should open up a brand new window. And right after loading a brand new window, it's going to ask for us to create a project name so that we can save it to the cloud. I'll go ahead and give mine a name. Here's the spot where you can go ahead and change how large you'd like the stage to be. You can always come back and change it later if you'd like. I'm going to leave it set at 800 pixels wide by 500 pixels tall. This is also a place where you can change what side of the application the watermark appears to get those player controls. Oh, it does say that I do have some of the features of a pro account, so this might not look quite the same as yours. One of the things that we're pretty excited about coming with the launch later this fall is navigation templates. And so from this picker here, you'd be able to scroll down and choose a template style and have that populate your project right off the get-go and begin with quite a bit of functionality already put in place. Okay, so I've got my project here, and on this back screen here on the back on the site, I'm also going to leave open the concepts learning application so that I can flip back and forth and see what it is that we're building towards today. So the first thing that I want to do is I'm going to create a movable object for my user to move around on the screen to sort things into different columns. And we're going to do that just by creating a very simple text object. So let's go over to our tool panel here and select the T for text. And it really doesn't matter where here at the very beginning of the application where you put that text object, but let's go over in the lower left-hand corner and we'll draw a text object. Let's see, and we're using nouns and verbs and adjectives, so we'll start with a noun. Let's go ahead and type zebra. You can, of course, type whatever you'd like. And we might want to do a couple of things to this text object before we get too far. If this is, again, if you haven't opened Zebra in a little bit, just as a refresher, when you select an object, a number of things happens. One is you get to see its message center. And again, the message center contains all of the properties. Essentially everything that the computer knows about this object is listed inside the message center. In addition, things that a user can do to it, like move it and drop it, those are all found inside the message center. And things that other objects might do to it, like when you press a button, you might want a text object to change its text. You might want the text object to get bigger, to get smaller, to show, to hide. All of those things, all of those actions will be found inside the message center. So things like changing its font size, you can access inside the message center by clicking the Properties tab, this blue tab here at the top of the message center. And if we go down to the category of font, we can change the font type. We can make the font of our text object bigger or smaller. We can make it bold. We can change the color. All of those things we can find right inside the message center. You may also notice that over on the right-hand side of the editor, a lot of the properties that you find in the message center are also listed, like its visibility. Again, here's a whole category for fonts. If you don't have the text object selected, that little inspector is completely empty. But when you do select an object, all the properties that you can change about that object at least most of them, you can find over here inside the inspector. And this is for convenience. And we'll talk about the differences as we go along today between the message center and the inspector. If you don't see your inspector right away or wondering where it's gone, clicking the eye icon over on the right-hand corner of the screen will open and close the property inspector drawer. So we've made a couple of changes using the message center. Let's maybe make a couple of changes using the inspector. You'll see that they work identically. We can align our text. We can center it if we'd like. We can maybe even make sure that it's centered both vertically and horizontally. And let's also give our fill color, the background of our text object, a different color so that we can see the edges of it. So I'm going to open up the color picker. You find this under Appearance. Fill color is here is down at the bottom. There's a couple of different ways to change the color. When you mouse over Fill color, you'll get a little slider. And by moving this caret, you can pick many different colors just quickly using the color picker in this fashion. You can also click in the space where there is color, in this little, what we call a color chip. This opens up a much larger inspector. You can change whether or not the background color is a solid color. If it's a gradient, you can even make it look kind of like a jelly bean, and choose different colors here. To choose two different types in the gradients, clicking again on this color chip will allow you to pick another color. So go ahead and just take a few seconds to set up your text object however you'd like, using different colors and fonts. And then as soon as I've got something here that isn't just absolutely ugly, we'll move on to making this an interactive object.
Did you discuss the opacity at all?
No, there's several different layers of opacity for our objects here. Fill opacity, the how transparent our background color is. Now up here I've got a yellow gradient. You can, of course, make that very transparent all the way down to 0 up to 100 by moving that slider. You can do it numerically just by entering in a number here in the cell.
Of course, if it's completely transparent, then it doesn't matter what color fill you're using, because it won't show.
Just to you.
No, wait a minute. Wait a minute.
You'll also find here under visibility at the very top that there's another set of opacity controls.
And that's for the object as a whole.
And that's for the object as a whole. So you can change the fill color's opacity. You can change the opacity of the object as a whole simply just by going up here, and again with that slider, you can make it all very transparent or 100% opaque.
Uh-huh. And the line refers to the border around the edges. So if you don't want any, you can either set the, well, no, you would say line weight is 0.
Line weight is 0,
Uh-huh.
and that gets rid of it.
Sure. And it doesn't matter if we do this in the message center or in the inspector.
Nope.
They're same things both places.
Same things both places. So as I was alluding to before, there are some differences between both the message center and the inspector. And I use a pretty simple rule of thumb. That is, if there are a few things about my object that I want to change that are in general have to do with its appearance or don't affect the interactivity of the object, I go over and make those changes in the inspector. But if I have a few changes that I want to make that refer to how the object works interactively, I do those changes in the message center, either by entering right in their value capsules or cells, or by wiring.
You know, I think I might point out, though, that the inspector on the right just shows commonly used properties to keep that inspector smaller and popping open faster. But the Message Center has absolutely every property available, right? So it has a larger set than is the inspector. So if we don't see it in the inspector, that doesn't mean it isn't adjustable,
Right.
right? We might have to look in the Message Center. Now, we're not going to talk about it today, but actually that inspector is customizable, and so you can determine exactly what appears in the inspector.
Exactly. Okay, so let's work on making our text object here an interactive object. And there are a couple steps that we need to do in order to make it essentially an input device for our user. The first thing that I want to do is I want to say that my text object is something that a user can move around the screen.
Aha.
And we'll find that property under the Properties tab of our text object and down here under Actions. And here's a good example of things that are in the inspector or in the Message Center, but not in the inspector. The second, what we call property ribbon, so second property that you can change right under the category of actions is called movable. And you'll know that it is not movable by our user at this position, at this point, because there's a little F here. And this is a binary property. This object can either be movable or not movable by our user. And to make it a movable object by our user, this needs to read T for true. So it says movable by the user during run mode. So let's go ahead and test that to make sure that it's working. I want to point you out to a set of buttons here at the very top left of the editor. And these refer to running your application and editing your application, and as well as previewing how your end user will see your application. And there are a couple of different modes. The first one I want to show you is what we call run locked mode. So we need to change two buttons. First, this little padlock here at the top, when you click it, it should become all white and you should see a padlock that does actually look locked. This means that when you start running your application, it's going to get rid of the message centers and all the wiring. You won't be able to see that, but you'll only be able to experience the application exactly like the end user. We have a couple of other run modes that allow you to make edits to your application without going back to edit mode. And to do that, you need to make sure that your little padlock is unlocked. So to experience this application just like the user would, we will make sure that our application is locked, and then we'll hit the Run Restart button, which is the play button here. And you notice everything slides away to the side. We get a black background, and we can only see the stage at the same size that our users will see it. You'll also notice that the watermark appears so that you can see where that is located in your application, as well as experience how it opens and closes and all the controls that your end user will have. So we should now have a text object that when I click and drag, I can move it wherever I'd like on the screen. And just for the time being, I'm going to leave it in the upper left-hand corner.
That would be your
right-hand corner?
Yeah.
Go-to meetings like a mirror.
Oh, okay.
What they see is on the left. What I see is on the right. So let's go ahead and hit our Edit Reset button. And so I deliberately left it here in the upper right-hand corner. When I hit Edit Reset, my text object moves back to where it was when I started running the application. So Edit Reset lets you know, okay, we've gone back to the very beginning, and all of the properties were reset just as when we left them when we started running our application. There are a couple of other modes that we'll talk about later today. One of them is Edit Pause. That allows you to run your application for a little bit, pause it, make a few changes, and then if you'd like, you can continue on from there by using the Run Resume button. But for now, we're probably just going to focus on Run Restart and Edit Reset. So we're looking for this button, the far left one and the one that looks like the play button. And we'll bounce back and forth. Okay. So in our application, which is back here on this other screen, we have a whole bunch of text objects at the bottom, and we have 3 different columns. We have one for nouns, one for verbs, and another for adjectives. We've got a little bit of lag here on GoToMeeting. I'll wait just a second to make sure everybody's caught up, but it could be the difference between wired and wireless. So down at the bottom of our application, we had a set of text objects, and at the top we had three different categories: nouns, verbs, and adjectives. And I could move one of these text objects to its appropriate category. So I might move the word sit and place that in the verbs category and let go, and it stays there. But if I were to move a word like door also to the verbs category and let go, that text object would sync right back to where it was in the beginning. Okay, so what we want to do is create our first drop target. I'm going to jump back to the editor, and let's go ahead and move our text object maybe down to the lower left-hand corner, and then I'm going to create a just a regular old rectangle. So let's go back to the toolbox and select the rectangle object. And I'm going to go ahead and make sure you've got that selected. To know that you've got the rectangle selected, there's a green highlight around it. And if you click and drag right here on the screen, you should get a rectangle. This is going to be our drop spot. And here is a case where we might use some opacity changes. I'm going to go back under the inspector for the rectangle here at the very top. I'm just going to grab that caret for opacity and bring it down just a little bit, like so. So let's make this our noun drop target. I'm going to do a couple of things. One is I'm going to relabel what this object is. It says rectangle. It's the default for whenever you create an object. It says what it is. But if you click right here, you notice you get text selection. And I'm just going to go ahead and label this rectangle our noun drop target. That way, when I'm editing, I know exactly what this rectangle is supposed to do. So I want to say that this is a drop target for my text object here that says zebra. And create some behaviors for when the user drops the word the zebra text object right on top of this rectangle, which is I want it to stay in place or essentially do nothing when I move it there. And if I miss or click on it, drop it on anything else, I want it to just jump right back in place. So we need to open up a new category in our message center, and these are called outs. I can close the text object's properties list, and I can open up outs just by clicking the little arrow here inside this text object. And you'll see that there are three categories for us to take a look at. The first one is point and click. The second one is drag and drop. And the third one is collision. Well, this is a drag and drop interaction, so the controls that we want are going to be listed in this category of outs. So I'm going to click on it to open it up, and you'll find four different ribbons. The first one is labeled start or drag start. This is an action or a trigger that will fire when the user starts moving the object. The second one is drag moving. It continues to fire while the user is moving the object. Drag release, this is when the mouse has been let go. And the bottom one here says dropped on. And this is the one that we're going to focus on mostly in our all the interactivity that we create today. If you click on the little triangle right next to drop down, it's going to open up and show you a few more properties. So let's go ahead and do that. So in the message center for your text object, down at the bottom where it says drop down, go ahead and click on this little triangle. And now you get three different ribbons. The first one is dropped on. You can think of this one as true. It's been dropped on its target. The second one, drop target, this is where we specify what objects on the screen are targets for our movable object. And down at the bottom is missed. You can think of this as false. The user is missed. So we've got true, it did drop on its target, and false, we completely missed it. So what I want to have happen is when I drop it on its target, I want it to do nothing. The first step is actually going to miss the true statement. And if I miss, I want it to put it back to this exact location. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to say, yes, this rectangle is a target. To do so, make sure you've got this set of ribbons opened up. And in the cell right next to drop target, go ahead and click there, and we're going to see a message. It says, please select an object. I'm going to go ahead and now click on the rectangle. It says noun drop target selected. And you should see in your little drop target ribbon that it says noun. I'll pause there for a second. And if you've completed that step, go ahead and hit the hands up button on GoToMeeting so I know I can continue.
Wow, you got a lot of people really quick. But not everybody has found it. Oh, that's pretty good.
And be sure to ask questions to the questions pane on GoToMeeting if there's some steps or you need additional explanation of what we're doing on the screen. I'm going to go ahead and put everybody's hands back down. And let's move on to the next step. So when I miss this target, when I drag the text object and I release it anywhere on the screen but right over the top of the rectangle, I want it to put itself back. So that's essentially saying when I miss. When I miss, I want to do something. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to wire from this ribbon that says missed back to the text object. And I'll show you how to do that. Right next to the word missed, where there's this little thing called a port, little dot right next to missed, it's orange here in this case. When I click down with my mouse and hold down with my mouse and pull away from the message center, I get a wire. And what this says is, when I miss, I want to do something. In this case, I want to put it back. I want it to go right back to this spot. And you'll find a behavior listed under ends, so a predefined thing for this text object to do under the category of ends and do. And the second one from the top there says put back and let go. So we're just wiring right essentially to the same object that when I miss the drop target of noun, go ahead and put yourself back. So go ahead and make that wired connection from missed up to here. I'll get rid of my wire here by clicking and deleting the wire. I'll do it one more time just so you can see how it's done. I'll open up the ins or the outs under drag and drop, under dropped on with the drop target of noun here from this missed ribbon, clicking and dragging to create a wire. I'm pulling this wire all the way up over the ins button, over the do category, and to the ribbon of put back and letting go. And that's all there is to it. I can think of one problem with our application before we start running it, and that is we've got a layering issue in that our drop target, since it was created after our text object, is actually on a layer above the text object. So we might want to send our rectangle here.
We can show that, right, by just dragging Zebra up there and it's going to slide underneath.
Sure. There's a little bit of opacity here, but you can see that when I move that text object right underneath the rectangle, or right over the rectangle, it's actually underneath the rectangle.
Oh, that's right. You set the opacity down.
Yep.
Yeah.
If you didn't do that, it probably looks a lot like this. When you move your text object up, it's completely gone. So we want to make sure that our rectangle is in the back, and you do that by selecting your rectangle, going to the Arrange menu, the very top. So go ahead and select the rectangle with your mouse, go to the Arrange menu, and we can send it to back. You'll also see the Command key equivalents. If I'd like, I could just go ahead and click the rectangle and hold down the Shift and the B button, and that moves that rectangle all the way to the back.
Or we could bring Zebra to front.
You could do that too.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and run our application in lock mode. So make sure that your run lock is white and a closed padlock, and then let's hit Run Reset. You should be able to click and drag and move your Zebra text object around. If you drop it, say way over here, away from the rectangle, and let go, it's going to snap right back to its starting position. But if you drag it up over the rectangle and let go, it's not going to do anything because we didn't wire it to put back when it did successfully drop on its target. And you can continue to move it, and again, putting it in a location other than right on top of that rectangle is going to snap it back.
Pretty cool.
Let's go back to Edit Reset, and we'll add one more little bit of polish or flair to this interaction, and that I want it to put back with a little bit of animation time, and I don't want it to just snap right back. And we do that in the message center for our text object. So let's go ahead and select the text object for Zebra, and we're going to open up Properties, and we're again going to open up the Actions category. Here are a whole bunch of different actions, and what I'm looking for is the ribbon that says Put Back Seconds. The number of seconds that it takes to go back to its previous location. So whenever this behavior fires, put back seconds refers to how long is it going to take to go back to this position. I don't want people to wait too long, so let's just call it 1 second. So I clicked in the cell and I typed a 1. So again, you'll find that under the Properties tab, under the Actions category, put back seconds, and I just added a 1 for 1 second. Let's go ahead and run it again and see how it works. I'm going to go ahead and just drag and drop the text object way away from the rectangle, and you can see it animates right back to its original position. But if I drop it over the rectangle, it just stays in place. And again, I can drop that again, and it snaps right back into place. I'm going to hit Edit Reset, and then I'm going to take a look back at our original interaction.
Yeah, I'd like to comment just a minute because what we're doing here is kind of building at the fundamental level, a building block level, and we've created a basic drag and drop relationship between two objects on the screen, right?
Yep.
And we did that by drawing one wire, and we did that within the message center of the Zebra text object. We could do that with any kind of object. It could be a graphic. It could even be a YouTube movie. It could be any object in there. We could do the same thing with it, right?
Right.
And also, it's true that once we built this, we could substitute other objects for it and change it into something else. So while it looks like, gee, we did a lot for, we spent a fair amount of time doing this. In fact, this was just to cover the concept. Once you know how to do this, you do this in less than a minute, right? I mean, you just pull this together. And if we wanted a bunch of these, we could just select these two objects, and we can copy and paste them and have a whole bunch of targets and a whole bunch of objects.
Right.
And that would be it. So in fact, we can build this kind of interaction in this method much faster than you can design the content or anything else, right? When you know that you want this kind of interaction, you know that you're going to spend very little time building it.
So let's go ahead and build it out. Let's do some copy and paste to match the interaction that we have here shown in the original application, again called Concept Learning, that you'll find in the shops. We've got 3 different drop targets. One's for nouns, another for verbs, and another for adjectives. And we've got a whole bunch of movable words here at the bottom that we can put in each one of those categories. So the first thing that I'm going to do is copy and paste our movable text object here, and I'm going to relabel it from text to a noun, just so I can remember that these types of objects goes with this drop target. And I'm going to click on it, and I'm going to go up to Edit and Copy. You'll see that the key combination for a copy is just hitting the letter C. And copying just that object, and I'll go ahead and paste it. So now I have 2 that say zebra. I could double click in that text object and call this one an apple. There's a couple other combinations that you can do. You can also click and drag while holding the Alt key on your keyboard, and that's the same as a copy and paste. And we'll call this one tree. And you'll notice that when you make a copy, that the wiring also comes with it. So this is the second copy of our original object called noun. It's still attached to this drop target, and the wiring is still connected from missed to put back. So now that I've made 3 different copies, the only thing that I'm going to do here is I'm going to run it, and we'll see that when I put the zebra up, when I put the apple up, they stick, and if I put the tree off, it snaps back to its original position. So there, I've quickly created three additional objects. Let's go back to Edit Reset. The next style of copy and paste is also pretty neat. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to select all 3 of our movable text objects and the drop target. And I'm going to go up to Edit. I'm going to go Copy and Paste. And then I'm just going to drag these right across. Now, if this was a room full of students, I would say, what do you suppose will happen when I run this? What would you assume that would happen?
Oh, are you asking me?
Yeah, anybody.
Anybody like
the
one person that's sitting right here?
Yes.
The others on the screen. Well, I know what happens, so it's a little hard for me. But the nice thing is that what I would like to have happen is I would like to have this new set of objects target this new target rather than target the old one. But when you copied zebra, all the text objects that you duplicated were all exactly like zebra, and they were all targeting that same target. Right. But now you did something different here. When you copied those words, you also copied the target.
Correct.
So what I'd hope would happen is that zebra would say, well, wait a minute, these new words, I want to target this new target, not the original.
So when we run it, let's just move these objects here over on the right-hand column, even though we haven't changed the text object. When I drop these guys over this target, they stay in place. But if I drop this guy over this target, he snaps back into place. So not only was the wiring retained, but the relationships were retained. In that when I made the copy of the target at the same time as the top copy of all the text objects, this relationship stayed intact. So now really all I have to do is I might relabel this to be our verb drop target. And you'll notice that when you now open the message centers for these guys, that its dropped on target actually now says verb. So that relationship is also intact. And I can go back here and I can say, Well, this is also a verb. And we'll need a verb like sit and a verb like stand and another verb maybe run. Just like that.
And so if we were to drag sit on the noun target, what's it going to do?
Sit over the noun target. Again, it's going to snap right back.
All right.
Stand on the verb target. It's going to stay in place. Run. Oh, we've got a layering issue. We'll fix that in a second.
Oh, yeah, we do.
So let's go ahead and select both of these targets. We'll arrange and send them to back. And again, now you should see when we run it, putting the zebra over the copied new drop target, snaps right back into place. The copied text object over the original snaps right back into place. But if I put these guys over their appropriate targets, they all stay right where they should. We hit edit reset, jump back again. So if I snap back out to the original application, you can see that I've got 3 different sets. And so the final action here would be to go ahead and I can maybe even do it from the copy. I'll go ahead and copy and paste this set. I did that by holding down the Alt key with all of them selected. And we'll make this an adjective. And when we run it, smart sticks, sit sticks, zebra sticks. Again, we've got a layering issue that I forgot to fix, but you notice that it works just like it did before when you go ahead and select all of your objects and make sure that all your drop targets are sent to back.
You know, I've used a lot of authoring tools over the years, and our studios do too. And we of course have designed this in a way that we think is going to help us build interactive applications as fast as possible. You know, faster than you can any other way. And one of the things that just is so exciting about this to me is that while templates can be very fast, and we use them, of course, and you could have a template for this. When you've got a template, then you're kind of working with a design that's anticipating a certain number of targets or a certain number of draggable objects or an arrangement of the screen and so on. Here again, you showed that making a drag and put back took less than a minute for an object, and you can duplicate that, and you could have 50 movable objects on here, however many your content needs. And because we're building it this way, we can arrange the screen in absolutely any way we want, right? So we can move the targets to the bottom, to the side. You can reshape the targets. You can convert the target into a photograph, and so you've got, or an icon, you've got some shape for verbs or nouns or something, or this could be a sentence at the top, and the words at the bottom are verb, noun, object, and so on, and you would drag those onto the right parts of the sentence and so on. So you can absolutely build any kind of drag and drop interaction you can conceive of, and you do it really, really fast. I think that's just, I mean, it's enabling our studios to build custom learning applications at the fastest speed ever that we've ever seen, and that includes building from a template.
So I see we've got just 10 minutes left in today's webinar, and there are 2 additional refinements that I would like to make to this interaction before we conclude today. One of them is to do some object replacement, and we'll take the same interaction that we've created, and I'll import some assets from my desktop, and we'll change our targets, and we'll change the text into a movable image. And the second thing that I would like to do is I'd like to also use these text objects and show you how you could refine the text objects themselves to change color when they are successfully dropped on the right spot and changed to a different color when they're put in the wrong spot.
Cool.
And that will wrap us up for today. But I'll also point you out back again to the shops and to this sample application that we created. It's probably easiest seen when I go here full screen. But there are several different styles. The next one will show you doing this with color feedback. And there are several more variants that I'd like you to take a look at. Down in the lower right-hand corner, there's a little question bubble. And if you click on it, it opens up and it shows you how the object was wired. So in this case, it's showing you how to change the fill color when you successfully drop on the right target. Here it's going to turn it to green. And if you miss, it's going to put it back and turn it to red. So I invite you to take a look at the application and see all the different styles that we've got here for you to look through. But again, I'm going to show you how to do some object replacement so you can change the objects that we have created here from text to images, as well as I'll walk you through creating the color changes. And then I'll invite you to explore the additional styles on your own. So let's start by, I'm just going to import some objects, whatever I've got handy on my computer. And to do that, there are two ways. One is to open up the project drop-down menu. And here you'll find a function called import asset in the menu. I'll go ahead and click that. And I'm going to go to my Dropbox folder for art. And let's see, I'm just going to grab some. If you've seen some of my other webinars, some of these objects will look familiar. I'm going to grab just a couple and bring those in. You get a little message here at the top to let you know that the objects are importing. And then you'll find your assets inside the asset library over here on the left hand. So let's say I want these three text objects to be images instead of text objects. I can replace them simply by grabbing one of these new images from my resource library, dragging it over the top of my text object, and you notice that I still have my mouse button down, but when I bring it over the text object, I get what we call construction tape, and this is to let you know that you can replace the object right underneath your pointer with the image from your resource library. So I'll do that now. I'll bring the pointer right over the top of the text object. You see that that's the construction tape, and while that tape is up and you let go, it replaces the object. And you'll notice that now when I click and move my zebra, that its message center appears. It still says noun. I could turn this and make it actually say zebra, and it's still got its relationship intact. So if I don't drop on this drop target, it's going to put itself back. So now I can run it. Hide the library here for a second. So I could put the zebra way over here and let go, and he's going to snap right back into place. And if I drop it over our drop target and let go, he stays in place. Not only can I replace the movable objects, but I could also, if I wanted to, replace any of the drop targets in the same fashion. Here I'll use the water buffalo because he's big, and let go. And so now this water buffalo is actually the target. So if I again go ahead and run this, if I drop the zebra over this square, he's going to drop into place. But if I drop him right on top of the water buffalo, he's going to stick in place. So see, you can have your drop target be any shape, and of course I can move this guy all around. So I could have him be way over here, down in the lower right, and run it again. Here's where he used to be. I snap back into place, and now I move over again. What exactly was the target? I let go, and the zebra stays in place. And so here with just our remaining minutes, and then we'll open it up for questions, I'm going to work with the additional text objects and show you how to change their fill color to be green when you drop on the appropriate target and turn them to red when you miss. Let's do that with the middle section here of verbs. And I'll start with sit. And we'll take a look at its message center. So what we want to have happen is when I drop sit right on top of its target, I want its fill color to turn green. And to do that, we need to create a special ribbon called a setter. And to create a setter, you wire from an out, and it can be any out, to a property. And that essentially says that when this action happens, I want to change one of the descriptive properties about my object to something else. So let's do that. We want to, when I drop on the verbs drop target, I click and create a wire. I want to turn its appearance and its fill color to a different color. And I want to make that green. So I'm going to let go with this ribbon from dropped on its target to fill color and let go. And then I'm going to go and I'm going to tell it what color I want it to change to. You notice that the property moved from being under the properties category to the ins category. And that means that you now have what's called the setter ribbon. If you click on the fill ribbon, fill color here ribbon under the ins, it'll open up a whole additional set of properties. And this describes how the property of fill color changes. The first one is what color is it going to be? And we want it to be green. So I'll change it to a solid green. And then again, if you open up this little caret right next to fill color, you'll see that there are a whole bunch of different categories here. Make sure that it's green. There we go. Including how long it might delay, if there's any tween seconds. And this is so that you can animate the change from its current fill color to its new fill color. I want to close that up because I just want it to turn green. And if I miss, I want to turn it red. So I'm going to do the same steps. I'm going to wire from missed this time instead of dropped on up to properties, to appearance, and to fill color. And I'm going to again let go. That creates another setter here at the top. And let's turn it a solid red.
And Christopher, could you add a tween in there?
Sure. If you wanted it to take a couple of seconds before it turned to red or it turned to green, you'd fill its, you'd enter in the amount of time that you'd want it to take to make that transition here in the transition seconds ribbon under the fill color. We'll make that 1 second. I'll do that both for red and green. So let's go ahead and run it and see how that works. First thing I'll do is I'm going to go ahead and miss. So it's going to put back and turn to red as I let go. And if I put it on its appropriate target and let go, it's going to fade to green. And again, I can do that over and over. So now we have two opportunities. One is we could go and rewire all of our objects like that before, or I could just kind of go, these ones don't have the new wiring. I could go ahead and just delete them with the delete key, make a couple new copies, copy and paste. We'll say stand, and run. Again, that all that wiring came with on the copy and paste. And now if I run it, green, green, and red. So part of our demonstration here is that on those actions, whether you miss or if you successfully drop on the target, you can make lots and lots and lots of changes to each one of those objects to let your users know that they indeed hit the target or they didn't hit the target. The second thing that I wanted to show you was how quickly, once you've created one of those actions, they can be duplicated and filled out with the rest of your content, whether that's through object replacement, by grabbing things from your resource library, or doing a copy and paste. with once you've got your object set up the way you want it to work. And again, after doing an object replacement, you can still do a copy and paste. So I could have 2 ostriches and 1 zebra all attached to the water buffalo. So I see we've reached about the end of our assigned time for today's webinar. And I'd be happy to stick around for 5 or 10 minutes and answer any questions that you might have. But again, I invite you to take a look at the application that we did publish in the shops called Concept Learning, and take a look at all of the different types of interactivity that we have, and click on this little questions button to see exactly how it was wired to get all of that interactivity to match up.
Some people were wondering about the sharing options.
Sure, and I did allude to that right at the beginning, so it's a good thing for us to cover in overtime. When you publish an application inside Zebra, you get a whole bunch of built-in sharing features because your application already lives in the cloud. It makes it really easy to distribute it just about anywhere. And we're previewing some features that are going to be available in the Pro version, like the ability to package it and couple it with your LMS, as well as use a very specialized guest list so that only a select few people can open up your application. The other ones that you can use right away today, that I invite you to take a look at when you publish your own applications, is you can embed any Zebra application inside a web page, inside a blog, by opening up this little icon that looks like a carrot. Here you get HTML code, essentially a little iframe that says how big your application is. Again, here it's 800 by 500 pixels. And all the information that internet browser needs to go out and grab your application. The next thing that you can do is you can send it via email. So if you click on the little email icon, here I could type in someone's email address and send them a direct link that would open up this page that's right behind so that they can play it. I can also send it out to anybody who's following me on Twitter. Go and say something like today's application built-in ZebraZapps. Go ahead and hit tweet, and off it goes. I could share it with all of my friends on Facebook. Go ahead and like it. Today's application. Go ahead and post it. The cool thing about Facebook is anybody that opens it up now that's a friend of mine on Facebook will see that embedded right inside their wall. Go ahead and hit done. The LMS features, some of those other things, using some of these other features, you can find a direct video on how they will work when you have access to Pro. Under Support and Learn ZebraZapps, down here towards the bottom, there's a preview of how publishing inside an LMS works, as well as additional how to embed it inside Captivate. You can put this in Lectora, Articulate, and all of the other sharing features can be found in tutorial videos here under our support section. Any other questions that we should take a stab at?
When will the Pro version be available?
We're in some of the final stages of QA, making sure that we've got all of our T's crossed and I's dotted. We'll have certainly a lot more information here shortly about when Pro will be released. And of course, anybody who's got a free trial account and is using it now will be the first to know. And you'll also be upgraded to a trial version of the Pro account just as soon as it's available. We hope to have some nice announcements about its availability coinciding in October with the DevLearn conference, which is facilitated by the eLearning Guild.
There's a question about scoring, and I can't remember if that little published demo that we have there, does that have scoring sample in it?
It does have scoring in it. And we certainly can create a special little short tutorial on how that works. Let's see if I've still got my editor open. That one uses embedded text variables, and I think we've got, I think what I'd like to do for that one, since we didn't get to it today, is to push out just a short little tutorial on how to make that happen. The wiring is there, but the trick or the final little piece of it is how do you do some very basic arithmetic inside a text object. And I'll go ahead and publish a short tutorial today.
I think maybe we should do a webinar on scoring because
Sure.
there's so many scoring capabilities, and be worth doing that.
Absolutely. Well, I'd like to thank everybody for attending today's webinar. Again, we've made a recording of this, so it will be available shortly for you to go back and look forward, or pause and go back to certain different parts if you want further explanation.
We will be at DevLearn.
Yes, we will be at DevLearn, both of us, and we've got some fantastic presentations lined up. We'll be demoing more about Zebra, and look forward to seeing all of you there.
Thanks, everyone.